So yeah, people was ring-a-ting-tinging the police. Hey y'all, welcome and/or welcome back to my channel. My name is Janae, if you didn't know, and today's video is another true crime episode. So if you're ready, let's go. All right, y'all, so we have made it to the second half of the State of the Crime series. And if you've been here for a little minute now, then you already know that we are going from the sticks to the bricks of America in alphabetical order. And today our travels take us to Billings, Montana in 1986. Now, unfortunately, there is not a lot known about the people in today's case, but I'll just go ahead and tell you guys what I do know. So the Roststein family consists of 4 people. There is the dad, David, who was born on March 5th, 1947, and he was an engineer at a super value store. And David was married to a woman named Monica, who was born on November 22nd of 1946. And Monica was a secretary and administrative assistant at Billings School District 2. And together, David and Monica had 2 children. They had a 15-year-old daughter named Amy, who was a majorette at Skyview High School. And they also had an 11-year-old son named Andrew, who they called AJ. And AJ was in his final year of elementary school as a 6th grader at Alakai Creek Elementary School. Now, it was unclear to me where the family lived prior to 1982, but this is the year that they moved to Billings. And when they got there, they moved into a house that was located on TP Trail. And I don't know why, but the name TP Trail just sounds so, it just sounds so cute to me. Not necessarily cute, but I just feel like it gives credence to Montana's nativeness. I don't know. So yeah, the Roststeins settled into a pretty little life here. And according to the people around them, they were a pretty upstanding family. Now, they wasn't perfect by no means, nor did they pretend to be perfect. But co-workers of both Monica and David said that they had never heard anything bad about somebody else come out of their mouths. And these statements about their characters was given separately. So it appears as though even if they was talking crap about people, they was only doing it with each other, because neither one of their co-workers had ever heard them speak ill of anyone else. And David's co-workers at the Super Value said that Dave and Monica, they called him Dave, they said that they were both very dedicated parents. Because a lot of the times when there was company parties or work functions, instead of just bringing Monica, Dave and Monica would come and they would bring the kids as well. And this was in stark contrast to mostly everybody else, because everybody else was trying to get a night away from their kids. But not David and Monica though. They seemed eager to have their kids with them. But I mean, in all honesty, seeing as how they moved from somewhere else to Billings, they may just not have had a babysitter. I'm not saying that they wasn't excited about having their kids with them. But all I'm saying is there could have been other circumstances in which they had to bring their kids, not necessarily that they just wanted to have them there. I'm just saying, just me thinking. But nonetheless, they included their kids and they never made them seem like a burden to them. And the people at Super Value also recounted Dave as a great storyteller. They say he was always ready to share up a story about him, his friends, or his family. And when he was telling the story, they said that you could just tell that he was literally reliving it or replaying it in his mind. And it just made for a great story. And they said that they would consider him a funny, personable person who was giggly and bubbly, and the type of person who never had a bad day. And even if he did have a bad day, he wasn't showing it. And at some point during his time at Super Value, Dave would become famous for his ties, because they were always bright and crazy with a funky little pattern to them, courtesy of his wife Monica, because Monica would often make her own clothes, and instead of throwing away the leftover fabric, she would sew Dave a tie. Monica said, "We ain't got to spend no money on no fancy ties when I got this good fabric right here." Now, as far as Monica goes, her co-workers said that she was professional, well-liked, and pleasant to be around. They said that she was always willing to help somebody whenever and however she could. And around her job, she was the person who mostly everybody went to talk to, because y'all know how it can be at jobs sometimes. You tell one person something and then within an hour, everybody know your business. But not if you told your business to Monica, because Monica was known to hold people's secrets and keep their business to just between her and the person that told her. And so in other words, she was a very trustworthy person. And both Monica and Dave's traits could be seen in their kids, because like his dad, AJ was said to be extremely smart and funny. And like his mom, he was pleasant to be around and friendly with everybody. It was said that if a new kid came to the school, AJ would make sure that that kid had a friend by the end of the day. But like most 11-year-olds, he had a little something in him that made him forget the rules every now and again, but nothing major. He wasn't like some rebellious preteen or nothing like that. It was just little stuff. Like one of his friend's moms said that after school, he would come to her house and him and her kid would have cookies and Kool-Aid. And when she realized that AJ was there, she would ask him like, okay, son, do your mom know where you at? And AJ's response would be, she will as soon as I call her. So sometimes he might forget to tell his parents where he was or what he was doing, but he wasn't a bad kid by far. Now, not a lot of classmates came forward to say much about Amy, but from what I can understand, she was a good kid who had a good head on her shoulders, and she had to be some type of decent in dancing to be a majorette. So yeah, that was the Roststein family. And in 1986, things was only looking up for them because Dave would end up accepting a new job offer and a promotion. And so the family would be moving from Billings, Montana to Atlanta, Georgia. And by all accounts, all of them were pretty excited about this move. Monica would often tell her co-workers about her new house down in Georgia. She would tell them about how she was fixing it up and what it looked like and everything. And she said that even though she was gonna miss them, she was super excited about this move. And because they was gonna miss her too, they all decided to throw a going away party for her. So they throw her this going away party and it's a huge success. They eating, they partying, they having a good old time. And everybody is giving their well wishes to Monica as she's hugging everybody and saying her goodbyes. Then on April 17th, 1986, the Roststeins leave their cozy little house on TP Trail and head out. However, they don't leave Billings just yet because they had a whole system. They had a whole plan to go by. And basically the plan was to stay a night at a motel, and the next morning, early in the morning, Monica and the kids was gonna get on the road to go to Nebraska to visit the kids' grandma. And then Dave would leave a little bit later on after he attended the going away party that his co-workers had planned for him. And then the whole family would meet up in Atlanta on Monday. Now, obviously, since we here, we know that the plan didn't go as planned. However, the first part of the plan went real smooth. So the Roststeins spent Thursday night in room 149 at the Airport Metro Inn. And on Friday morning, Monica and the kids woke up super early to get ready to head out. So it's roughly 5 o'clock in the morning. And Amy is loading up the family's Honda Accord, going back and forth between the room and the car, getting stuff ready to head out on the road. And on one of the times when she's headed back to the room, a stranger walks up behind her and forces her back into her family's room. And according to a motel clerk, it would later be learned that this man checked in under the name John Monroe, and he was assigned to room 151 at roughly 4:45 a.m. So roughly only 15 minutes before he forced his way into the Roststein room. And once he got in there, he told the family, calm down. I need your money. We're going to go into the next room. Now, me personally, I'm just assuming that they didn't haul off and jump his ass because they saw that he had a duffel bag. And inside of that duffel bag, you can see that he had a gun. And so they was probably thinking like, all right, bet. He just want to rob us. He only want our money. If we comply, we'll be straight, right? But no. I'm telling you from something that I've learned while doing this true crime thing and stuff that I've heard, never follow anyone to the second location. But they didn't know that at the time, and so here we are. They follow him to the next room. So yeah, he shuffles the Roststeins from room 149 to 151, and once he gets them in there, he closes the door, obviously, and he turns the TV on and he turns the volume way up, and he also put a do not disturb sign on the door. He then takes the gun out of the duffel bag, tosses it on the bed, and instructs the family to lie face down on the floor, which they do comply to. And then John proceeded to tie and gag them, starting with Dave. He taped his hands and feet together and then gagged him as well. And then he moved on to Monica, who actually pled with her captor. She said, take what you want, but leave my family alone. Unfortunately, John ignored all of her pleas and simply moved on to the littlest Roststein, AJ, who was also bound and gagged. Now, the captor did leave Amy untied, but that was only because he wanted her to help him move the stuff from her family's room into his room. And once they was done moving the stuff from their room to his room and he had wiped the Roststein's room down, they returned back to his room where he did end up binding and gagging Amy as well. And once he had the whole family tied up, he started going through their stuff and he stole credit cards, traveler's checks, money, and jewelry. And the hope was that after he got everything he wanted, he would just leave them alone and be done. However, that's not what happened, because after stealing pretty much everything of value, he then injected Dave with an unknown substance. And while he was injecting him, Dave asked him, like, what is you doing? And John pretty much said that after he had finished drugging the whole family, they would go to sleep and then he would just leave. And then they would be found by a maid or somebody. And after this, he turned to Monica to inject her with this unknown substance as well. But Monica was not about to go easy. So she started kicking dude. And he basically told her, calm down. Everything is going to be fine. And it's like, sir, how do you expect these people to calm down when you got them tied up and gagged in a room? And you injected them with something that they don't know what they're getting injected with. And you told them that they about to go to sleep. Girl, is you trying to kill me, or is you just going to make me go to sleep and then I'm going to wake up later? Like, what is it? They literally had every reason to be freaking out, especially seeing as how after Dave and Monica passed out from whatever he had just injected them with, he strangled them to death with a telephone cord. And once he was sure that they were dead, he placed their bodies underneath the sink area near the back of the room and then covered them with blankets and sheets from the bed. Now, thankfully, Amy didn't see her parents being strangled, because once he injected her parents, he instructed her to face the wall, and I'm just assuming that he did the same with AJ as well. Now, after he covered Dave and Monica's bodies, he mixed up a concoction of water and something else and instructed Andrew to drink it, which he did, and Andrew seemingly went to sleep as it was described. And he too was strangled with the telephone cord and placed alongside his parents. And it's at this point where Amy was untied again and instructed to help John move her family's cars. Because remember, it's two cars. There was the one that Dave was going to be driving to Atlanta with, and then there was the one that her mom was going to be driving the kids to Nebraska with. So he needed help moving the cars, and they ended up moving the cars from the motel parking lot to the back of a nearby store. And once they got back to the room, he mixed up another water and whatever concoction for Amy to drink. But Amy was like, oh, hell no. I see that my peoples is over here knocked out. Because at this point, she really don't know that they've already been killed. But she like, they over there knocked. I'm not doing that. And so instead of drinking it, when John wasn't looking, she poured it out and covered the wet spot with a pillow so that he wouldn't know that she didn't drink it. And so she just stayed up. She didn't pretend to get drowsy, and she didn't pretend to go to sleep. She just was like, sorry, buddy, it didn't work on me. I don't know what to tell you. And I'm just guessing that John ran out of whatever it was that he had, because he never tried to drug Amy again. But what he did do was tag her along for the next 2 days as he did regular shit. They went to the store. They went to his friends' houses. Hell, they even went to his house a couple of times. And during some of these stops, Amy was sometimes left in the car unattended and untied. But she never tried to run, because in her 15-year-old mind, he said that her family was still alive. And so she genuinely believed that they were still alive. And she felt like if she tried to run, that it would make things worse for them. And she also didn't run because she didn't think that any normal, rational person would believe her had she told them what was going on. So instead of trying to run away, what she did do was go through his shit. So while he was out there talking to his friends, while he was in the house and doing whatever it was that he was doing, she went through the glove box. And in the glove box, she ended up finding his social security number and his real identity, because, shocker, his name is not fucking John Monroe. His real name is David Dawson. And once Amy found all of this information, she wrote it down on a paper sleeve of a cassette tape case. So I don't know how old y'all are or what y'all remember about cassette tapes, but y'all remember with a cassette tape, you open it and then there's like the little paper part that can come out. Yeah, she wrote it on that and put it in her pocket. And she did this just in case something happened to her. They would know the name and social security number of the person who did it to her. And there wasn't really much else to be learned about David Dawson, aside from the fact that he was born on October 20th, 1957 in San Diego, California. His mama name was Edith. He worked as a construction worker at some point. He was addicted to meth, and prior to this, the only thing that was on his record was a misdemeanor possession of marijuana charge. That's all we know about David. Anyhow, Amy did end up surviving this whole ordeal, because while he was frolic-lolicking around the town for those 2 days, people was worried about the Roststein's absence. First, it was the granny in Nebraska. She called the police up like, hey, my family was supposed to be here to visit me before they made their move down to Atlanta, I ain't seen them and I ain't heard from them. It should have only taken them a minimum of 5 hours, maximum of 14 hours to get from Billings to Nebraska, depending on where they was going, because it wasn't stated. And then it was Dave's co-workers, because he had ended up missing his going away party. And they just knew that based off of the way Dave worked and the way he was, they knew he was not about to miss that going away party. So yeah, people was ring-a-ting-tinging the police. And so on April 20th, 1986, after talking to their former neighbors on TP Trail, the police pull up to the Airport Metro Inn at approximately 11 o'clock p.m. And when they talked to the clerk, she said she thought the family had left because their room was empty and their cars wasn't in the parking lot no more. And while Detective Hatfield was in the office talking to the clerk, another officer said he saw a suspicious man walking in and out of room 151. And while the officers was in the parking lot, the man from room 151 came back outside. We now know this is David Dawson. And so the detectives approach him and they ask him, is he John Monroe? Because remember, the clerk had told Detective Hatfield that the man checked in under John Monroe in room 151. And so the detective asked him, are you John Monroe? And he like, yeah, that's me. And Detective Hatfield basically told David, look, we looking for the family that was in room 149. We done found their cars over here behind the stove. Do you know anything about them? And David told them like, yeah, nah, I know nothing about the family or their cars. Peace. Now, I'm just guessing that the store that the cars was moved to was right next door, because while the detectives was looking in the Roststein's car, David pull up and he like, okay, so look, I know a little bit of something. And he tells them that he helped a female between the ages of 12 and 29 start one of the cars one night. And might I just say, 12 to 29 is one hell of an age range. But anyway, he also said he saw somebody messing around with the cars. And that's all he know. And then he went back to his room. Mind you, he had just told these officers not even 2-3 hours earlier that he didn't know nothing about the family nor their cars. Now he's seen somebody 12 to 29 and he helped them start a car. And then he's seen somebody messing with the car. So now you know something about the family and something about the cars. Sir, that's awfully suspicious. And the detective thought so too. So he heads to room 151 to talk to David. Now mind you, he still thinks this is John Monroe. And when David answered the door, they get to chit-chatting, and David eventually tells him like, all right, bet, my name is not John Monroe. My name is actually David Dawson, but I gave you the false name because I came here with a married woman and I don't want nobody to know that. And even though the detective think he hella suspicious, he really don't have nothing to go on. And it kind of made sense as to why he would check in under an alias if he was in there with a married woman. He wouldn't want the husband to accidentally find out and then find out his real name, etc., and it'd be a whole problem, right? So the detective leaves and they start searching other rooms in the motel. And as they are looking around and checking in these other rooms, there's a feeling that just comes over Detective Hatfield like, dude in 151 was way too suspicious. I don't like it. I'm gonna go back and talk to him again. So he goes back to room 151 to talk to David. And this time he asked David like, hey, is your little sneaky link in here with you? And David was like, nah, she ain't here, she left. And so Detective Hatfield was like, okay, bet, well, since she ain't in there, do you mind if I come in and look around a little bit? And at first David was a little hesitant, but then he kind of moved back and opened the door. It seemed like he was inviting Detective Hatfield into the room. Mind you, by this point, David had already put Amy in the bathroom along with their family dog Tigger, because yes, somehow a dog is involved in this too. So Detective Hatfield, when he walk in, he don't see Amy nowhere, but what he do see is a bunch of covers bunched up under the sink area at the back of the room. And he like, what's going on there? And David does not answer this question, but what he does say is, Amy, it's okay. You can come out now. Thank goodness you've been rescued. And Detective Hatfield hear the name Amy, and he knows that one of the missing family members' name is Amy. So that's when he started walking towards the bathroom where Amy was. And this is when he notices that feet are sticking out from those blankets that he saw at the back of the bathroom. And once he peeped this, he calls for his other detectives to come right away, basically. And this is when David Dawson is arrested expeditiously and Amy is rescued. And she is taken down to the police station where she is interviewed and is able to give a formal statement of what happened to her and her family over the last 2 days. And there's no question that David is the perpetrator to these crimes. And so he's subsequently charged with 4 counts of aggravated kidnapping, 3 counts of deliberate homicide, and 1 count of robbery. And he went to trial. Don't know why, but he did. And his trial started in March of 1987. And so bravely, Amy took the stand. And it was said that after her testimony, the only dry eyes in the courtroom were those of David Dawson. And needless to say, the man was found guilty and ultimately ended up being sentenced to death. And after the trial, Amy was released to family members whom she was raised with in California. And in the years, weeks, and months leading to his execution, there were multiple appeals that were filed, which were all denied. And eventually David was like, look, y'all need to cut it out. Stop making appeals on my behalf because I don't even want it. He didn't want any more appeals. He was over it pretty much. And on August 6th, 2006, David Dawson was executed by lethal injection and he was pronounced dead at 12:06 a.m. And Amy, who was grown and married with kids by that point, did not attend the execution. However, she did send a letter to the prosecutor, I believe, who was to read the letter post David's death. And in part, the letter read, "My name is Amy. 20 years ago, I experienced a horrific event whose ramifications recently came to a conclusion. My thoughts and feelings about this are private, but I want to publicly acknowledge and thank several people who have helped me over the years. Thanks to the above, and in spite of the terrible event, I am doing well and living a wonderful life. Despite my family and I being victimized 20 years ago, I have chosen not to live my life as a victim. Instead of dwelling upon the horrible events that transpired, I concentrate on moving forward, keeping the living qualities of my family as an inspiration. My father's sense of humor, smile, and work ethic, my mother's dedication to family, kindness, and faith, and my brother's mischievous jest for life and enthusiasm." The letter also stated that she had recently visited Alakai Creek Elementary School and saw the plaque and visited the tree that was planted 1 year after this tragic event in her brother's memory. And she said that it was beautiful. And yeah, that is all I have for today's case. Thank you all so very much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you all for the next one. Let's take it to the west streets of America. That looks good. That looks real good. Can y'all see that little red spot on my face? I don't know what's going on. Kickstand walking ass bitch. I'm sorry. We love Tia Kemp. It's the thuggish, ruggish bone. Girl, why do you have all these songs in your heart? Anyway, let go. And flash. And Joshua. Let's get this thumbnail, bitch. And Monica was a secretary and administrative at Alakai, or Alaki. Now, it was unclear to me as to where the family resided before they made their way to Billings, but I read that they went to that. Jackson and Jocelyn. Yeah. Y'all okay?
Did my friend come yet?
No.
He said he wakes up at 1.
Well, girl, he ain't outside. Maybe he needs to take a bath first. I don't know. And they said that they would consider him a funny, personable person with that. No. Yeah. Her coworker said that she was... I just read it.
Yeah.
Your friend is at the door.
Okay. I go change.
Okay. Y'all go to open that garage and go outside. And close the door and don't keep running in and out. Okay?
Okay.
Please and thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. And basically the plan was to stay a night or two at a hotel and... And they asked him, is he John Monroe? Because remember, the clerk had turned... She is subsequently... Oh my gosh, I can't say it. 4 counts of kidnapping. No, aggravated. What you need?
Nothing.
So what you want?
You say hi?
Okay, I knew it. Come on. Wait, be careful because you know my ring light ain't proper.
Hi.
That's it?
Love you.
You talking to me or them?
Both of y'all.
Okay. I love you too, baby.
Love you so much.
Besitos. Thanks.
Petitos.
All right.
Bye, guys.